So I heard a quote today and I could not find the author of it. So I apologize if you guys know who's the author of it. I would so appreciate you letting me know. In fact, it might not even be someone's specific quote. It might be a hodgepodge of some a specific quote out there. So if there's something that it sounds like or similar to, feel free to comment on that as well. Uh, so the quote is, feelings are not reliable. I heard that and I was like, oh, that just, for whatever reason, it was something I needed to hear today. And that's what sparked me into being here with you. So enjoy this recording. I'd love to hear your comments, your feedback, get a rating. Feel free to share this with anyone else that needs to hear this message as well. And I kind of put together a little bit of a fun journey to accompany that quote. So emotions, right? We know emotions, feelings, the words are synonymous, but emotions aren't facts. They're not facts. They're alerts. They're alarms. That's all our emotions are. The good, the bad, the ugly, the high, the low, the right, the wrong. Our emotions are an alarm. So a lot of people, including me, for many years of my life, I was on an emotional roller coaster. So what I'm going to point to in this recording is getting off the emotional roller coaster. So if you listen to this in whole or in part and you're tired of being on the emotional roller coaster, raise your hand, reach out to me. Let's have a conversation. So, the emotional, I love metaphors. So I try to plug in metaphors in my messaging everywhere I go, because sometimes those are relatable and sometimes it's easier to understand a metaphor versus using real life scenarios. But when I think of an emotional roller coaster, I think of, the highs and the lows. So at the top, you're feeling great, everything's amazing, incredible, you're feeling joy, pleasure, whatever. And then when you get to the bottom, you're spiraling, overthinking, overanalyzing, stressed out, anxious, worried, etc. So if you find yourself reacting to said feelings or emotions, again, that's the emotional roller coaster. If you're reacting out of your emotions, primarily the negative ones, you're probably experiencing life in a heavy, burdensome, tiring way, right? When we're spiraling, we're overthinking, we're overanalyzing, that's heavy. That's a lot of energy, mental and emotional energy that may not be physical energy. You're not digging holes all day long, but I know at the end of the day it could leave you feeling really exhausted. I get that comment a lot when first meeting potential clients to work with, is I'm just so exhausted at the end of the day, or whatever, or middle of the day. By noon, I'm just so exhausted. But if you find yourself reacting to feelings, you're on the emotional roller coaster and you feel a feeling and you just take off with it, and you do things, you say things, you behave in a way that later on you're like, why did I say that? Why did I do that? What's wrong with me? This is the recording that you definitely want to tune into. So here's the truth. You ready? The bold truth that people don't talk about. People rarely talk about it. Or they do talk about it, but it's rarely understood, because me too. I used to understand the quote or the saying that feelings aren't real, or feelings aren't reliable, which is that one that just really sparked in me. That really landed for me. I understood it on a logical way. So logic is just, my brain says, yes, that makes sense, but I wasn't applying it in real life. My behaviors, my actions, how I lived my life wasn't congruent, wasn't in alignment, wasn't acting from that place. So I believed it, but I wasn't living that. I wasn't living proof of that. Feelings, again, I'm going to try to say this over and over again, kind of like hypnosis or the news. Those of you that watch the news and are terrified and in scarcity and in fear all the time, it's because you're listening to things over and over and over and over again that are brainwashing you. So I'm going to try to brainwash you in this recording that feelings aren't real. Feelings are an alert. They're an alarm. They're like a smoke alarm. They're just They're just beeping and letting you know that your thoughts are sad, mad, angry, upset, fearful, anxious. That's it. It's just a warning. It's just an alert. That's all it is. So feelings are not reliable. Feelings are coming from conditioning, programming, beliefs, things that you're hearing, you're experiencing, and you're repeating outward. They're not the truth. Your feelings are not the truth. They're patterns, because your brain and your mind love patterns. Your brain and your mind, two totally different things. They love what's familiar. They love things on repeat. Why? Because it conserves energy, which I like to call autopilot. We do things over and over and over again every day, like Groundhog Day. Every day we do things over and over again without thinking about it. Right? There's a lot of things that are going on in your body without thinking about it. Your heart is beating, you're breathing, you're blinking, you're swallowing, you're doing all kinds of things. Your body is on autopilot naturally, a lot of aspects of it, but so can your feelings and your thoughts. And we reinforce these patterns by acting out of those thought feelings. Okay, so understanding the thought, feeling, action cycle will empower you to change the direction of your life. It will empower you to see things differently. It will empower you to experience life completely differently. So think of a thought as like a seed, right? We're going to plant a seed. A thought is a seed, and it can bloom into any kind of feeling, right? So what kind of seeds do you want to plant in your life? Do you want seeds that are sad, mad, angry, anxious, fearful, worrisome? Or do you want to plant seeds that are happy, joy, excited, loving, caring? Because these seeds, when they sprout feelings. Feelings, the plant that sprouts out, is what drives your actions. It drives what you do or don't do in your life. Your actions, once they are repeated, is what builds this habit loop. It builds the loop. It reinforces it, builds the neural pathways in your brain. And again, your brain loves patterns. Your brain will attach to all sorts of patterns, good, bad, wrong, different. It doesn't care, because your brain only wants to keep you alive. It doesn't care if you're sexy. It doesn't care if you're hot. It doesn't care if you're successful. It doesn't care if you're in love. It doesn't care if you're happy. It just wants to keep you alive. So any kind of pattern your brain loves, because it conserves energy. So as you're listening to this or watching this, you are currently a sum of all your habit loops, your thought, feeling, actions throughout your whole life, because you're having millions of them a day. A thought, feeling, action, million times a day, if you really think about it. Pun intended. So you are a product of your thoughts, your feelings, and your actions that you have practiced, that you have done over and over and over and over and over again every day. So every thought that you believe, every thought that you get attached to, every emotion that you obey, right? Because again, the emotional roller coaster, if you jump on that emotional roller coaster and you go, oh, I have a feeling right now to go eat a piece of cake, and you act on it, that's reinforcing a habit loop. So every time you take an action off of a feeling, you're creating a habit loop by repetition. So every thought, feeling, action that you have done is created who you are in your financial status, your relationship status, your health status. Every thought, feeling, action is throughout your whole lifetime has created the sum of what you are right now. So how powerful is this? Well, your financial status. Okay, it begins with thoughts about money, your relationship to money, how you see money. What does money mean to you? What is the worth? What is the value? Does it offer security, or does it offer scarcity? Is it scary? Is it bad? Is it evil? Is it good? Is it energy? Whatever your thoughts are and beliefs about money creates a feeling. So it either creates a feeling in your body of lack or abundance. It creates ambition or drive, or does it create scarcity? Does it create fear? Does it create worry? Does it create heaviness or contraction? So those feelings are what's going to drive you to save money. It's going to drive you to spend money. It's going to drive you to work harder. It's going to drive you to avoid investing. It's going to drive you into whatever action it is. So on your health, kind of giving you another perspective, again, on the thought, feeling, action cycle, your health, your body composition, right? So how much muscle you have compared to how much fat you have compared to your bone density and strength, your endurance, your health of your skin, the shape of your body is all a sum of every thought, feeling, and action you've had through your whole entire life. So your thoughts shape who you are today. So if your thoughts are, I am not disciplined, I am not capable, I hate exercising, I love food, or I take care of my body, I love feeling strong, I love feeling ambitious, I love working on my endurance, I love strengthening my body, I love staying toned. There's all kinds of thoughts. All of these thoughts generate or lead to some sort of feeling, whether it's shame or guilt or proudness or inspiration, creates an action. Either set your heart on fire or it sets your ass on the couch, right? So your actions are in alignment and in accordance with the thoughts and the feelings that you're believing. So you're either numbing out or you're nourishing your body. Your relationship status, this is the last one, and then I'll go into another angle that I want to share with you today. So your relationship status is an accumulation of every thought, feeling, and action you've done up until this point in your life. So if your thoughts and beliefs and your relationship to having relationships with others, maybe it's love, maybe it's just friendship, it either creates a feeling of safety and security and trust and worth and value, or it creates pain, agony, suffering, scarcity, anger. You pick the flavor, right? So your feelings, when you're feeling insecure, when you're feeling fearful, when you have negative thoughts, right? What emerges is you shut down, you put walls up, you close off, you become angry, maybe bitter, maybe resentful. But if you have feelings of connectedness, compassion, empathy, curiosity, you're interested, it's important to you to establish relationships, well, then you become open, you become vulnerable, you become one that people want to spend time with. See how your thoughts and your feelings and your actions dictate your reality. They dictate the overall sense of every single day. So everything external is reflectant of your internal thoughts and beliefs and feelings, because they lead to the actions that you do or you don't do. So what is the question I have for you to put in the comments? If you are brave, which I know you are, because if you think you're brave, you'll feel brave, and then you'll write a comment. You'll write a response to this question. So the question is what's one feeling that you reacted to in the last week without questioning the thought behind it? Okay, this is important because I'm going to kind of go through a metaphor and a story here in just a moment, just to concrete this in and create a visual and have you be a little bit self-reflective and be curious at how this shows up in your life. But what is one feeling that you reacted to? So when I think of a reaction, it's without thought. You just there is a thought, just so you know, there is a thought. Without thought is kind of like a pun, but so there is a thought, but there's a feeling, and then you just quickly reacted. Maybe you yelled at somebody. Maybe you flipped somebody off in traffic. Maybe in a generous, kind way, you opened the door for someone that you noticed coming your way that was on crutches. Maybe you paid for someone's coffee or tea that was looking like they had a bad day. So it could be any kind of response is a positive and a reaction is a negative in my mind. You may have a different connotation or definition, and that's okay. But maybe you reacted to a feeling in this last week that you're willing to share. And I would love to hear that in the comments and have a conversation with you. Anyways, well, moving on. So the metaphor I want to use in this topic is, again, feelings are unreliable. So our feelings are an unreliable source of information. Our feelings are an alert, right? Positive feelings, I think that we can respond to those and navigate life in a light, freeing way. If we're having a feeling that's negative, which I like to use a scale of 1 to 10. So 1 being the worst feeling on the planet, 10 being the best feeling on the planet. So if I'm an average of a 5, that to me is just a normal average day. That's just me, probably a day I'm not going to remember. It's probably just normal autopilot, right? Doing all the same things I do every single day. I eat the same foods, I do the same things, whatever. Just so normal day is a 5. But if I feel like I'm dipping down into a 4 or 3, to me, that's an alert. That's an alarm. That's a signal. What thoughts are fueling that feeling? Because I have choice. I have an option in that moment to get wedded to that thought and create more of that and create more scarcity, fear, anger, whatever that negative feeling is. And what it ends up doing is it is destructive to my day, maybe my week, maybe my month, maybe my whole year. And I don't want to choose that. So I want to have option. I want to have choice. I want to stand in my own empowerment. I want to choose how I want to feel. So whenever I notice I'm drifting to a 3 or a 4 or 2 or a 1, I want to be able to pop back up to a 5. I want to have the resources, the tools, and self-regulate myself to move back up to a 5. Because a 5 is fine. 5 is neutral. 5 is good. Okay, so the metaphor I want to use today is the emotional weather report. So we all know about weather, right? We all have weather. So imagine your emotions, right? Your feelings are like the weather. Maybe one moment it's sunny, and the next moment it's stormy. Right? Maybe this morning when you looked at the weather forecast, it was planning on being a sunny day. But all of a sudden it became stormy. Right? The clouds came in, it got dark, thunder, lightning, wind, hail, snow, maybe, depending on where you live. So would you cancel your entire life because it might rain? Are you going to cancel all the things that you had planned for the day and get mad and angry and frustrated at the weather that you have no control over? So the weather is a metaphor for your life, right? There's going to be, life is a contact sport. Like there's not a pause button. There's not a stop button. But would you cancel your entire life plan because the clouds rolled in unexpectedly? Or would you connect with, where is the storm coming from? What is happening, right? So the storm is life. What is happening? How can I pivot? How can I navigate this weather and continue living my life in a way that feels good? So how do I want to feel? How can you move forward intentionally with power, with empowerment, with strength, with fortitude, with discipline, with motivation, with excitement, with joy, with fun? How do you move forward intentionally? It's choosing how you want to feel. It's allowing that storm to come through, pass by, without trying to control it, without it allowing it to control you, without giving it the remote control to your life, without giving it power to make you feel happy, sad, mad, glad, whatever. So checking in on your inner world, your inner dialogue, what thoughts are creating feelings and what actions you're taking, right? So if every time a storm came through and you just cancel all your plans and crawl up in your bed, that's an option. It's your choice. Is that getting you further towards your goals or further away? So it's really checking in on your thoughts and what stories and beliefs you're believing in that moment. Speaking of story, all right, Sarah and John. I'm going to kind of use Sarah and John, I think, through this podcast series or these recordings, and also in my book. Yes, I have a book. It's in progress in the very early stages, so stay tuned. But Sarah and John, I titled the story Two Ways to One Moment. Okay, so here's what I believe. There is a situation or a circumstance, right, with everything that goes on in our lives. We humans add thoughts, stories, beliefs, judgments, expectations, assumptions to all stories that make them feel high or low or good or bad or right or wrong or fair or unfair. We humans make it feel black or white, good or bad, all the things, right? So there's a scenario in the situation. I'll read it out to you. So John, remember we have John and Sarah, they're both married. John has an important client. Let's just assume that this is Friday night. So John has an important client. It's his most important client. And right before leaving work, has an urgent emergency issue that only John can handle right before he leaves for work. He's caught off guard and he doesn't have time to text or call his wife, Sarah. And he knows, I probably should text her, let her know that I'm going to be late, because he has an assumption that this is going to take some time. And he also knows that Sarah is looking forward to their Friday night time together. But this client is a big part of his business, a big part of his income. So he had to drop everything and help them. He did not have time to make a call or a text. So the emergency, right? The emergency took John 3 hours to solve. John did it, jumped in his car without calling or texting, just jumped in his car again. Still hasn't texted or called Sarah, because he also knew that if he did, she would get upset. So he decided upon himself that he'll just explain everything when he gets home, hoping, praying that she would understand. So while this is all going on with the 3 hours, Sarah immediately thinks he's late again. He knows this bothers me. Why does he come home so late? He knows this upsets me, right? Dinner is sitting there already. It's been sitting there for 2.5 hours, 3 hours. It's cold. It's ruined. Everything that I was looking forward to all week is now gone. She's salty. She's angry. She's upset. She feels abandoned. Okay. So all of this is coming from Sarah's busy mind. Busy mind. So it's filled with a ticker tape. Her busy mind is spinning, it's spiraling. She's on the emotional roller coaster, right? She had a thought and she's grabbing onto this negative thought and she's going for a ride. So she's beginning to think, he doesn't care. I'm not a priority. He doesn't respect my time. Remember, she's got 3 hours to sit and stew, freak out over this. She's all alone. She set aside this time specifically for him. He always does this. I'm not a priority. He does this always to me. He's purposely doing this to me, right? More thoughts, more feelings. I'm not good enough. I'm not important. Thoughts and feelings, thoughts and feelings. So her actions that follow all of those thoughts and feelings, right? Because they look real. Her thoughts look real. They viscerally feel real. She feels abandoned. She feels alone. So they're fueled. Her actions are fueled by all these thoughts and feelings. So as soon as he walks in the door, she snaps at him. She vents on him, says all these things that are running in her mind that she's just been listening to over and over and over and over again. And blah, right when he walks in the door, she goes to the bedroom, slams the door, which creates a night full of tension. Gives John the cold shoulder. She rolled her eyes as she threw her hair back. And he asks, "What's wrong?" So all of this, now I will say, looking back at what John's thoughts were, right? John thought, oh, I got to take care of this client. It's very important. It's the majority of my income. It's very important. He had a thought to call or text her. I probably should, right? He did. He had a brief spark, didn't act on that. He thought, she'll understand. I'll take care of this later. I'll address this face to face. Partly, perhaps maybe he thought also in the moment, if I text her, if I call her, I'm going to come from a sped up mind. I'm going to say things and my energy is going to be rushed and I'm going to cut her off and maybe she'll interpret my text incorrectly. You know, maybe there's some concern there. Maybe in the past he's texted her or called her and she adds meaning to that or takes that personally. So he's maybe walking on eggshells. I'm not really sure. We can assume, we can add that to the story because again, this is fake. This isn't real. But what I will say is, so that could be a deduction out of the bank account of goodwill. I'm not going to cover what goodwill means in this recording. Those of you that know. In a nutshell, it's a good feeling towards another person, right? There's a bank account. It's either high or low. What she's done is definitely taken a withdrawal out of their bank account of goodwill, right? There's a low feeling as a result of her actions. So I want to use the same scenario, but taking a different path. Okay, so thought, feeling, action. Coming from a still mind, right? I covered a busy mind. A busy mind is really getting wedded to the thoughts, the stories, the beliefs, the judgments, the critical thinking, the painful thoughts and feelings that Sarah felt for 3 hours and stewed over. But what if we shifted it? Same story, same circumstance, same event, but she's coming from a still mind. So again, John's late, same circumstance. The thought pops into her head, he doesn't respect my time. We planned this. I was looking forward to this. He does this. I'm not a priority. She hears that thought. Let's call it an intrusive thought. Or ego or saboteur. There's all kinds of languages. I call mine bossy pants. I name my internal negative dialogue as bossy pants because mine has a flavor of bossiness and righteousness. So I find bossy pants is a funny name and it allows me to have some humor. It allows me to detach from it. It allows me to befriend it, and because it has superpowers too. So I don't want to get rid of bossy pants. We need bossy pants' power and strength, but not every day. Just once in a while. So Sarah hears that thought. She recognizes it. She notices maybe prior to, maybe he's only 15 minutes late and this thought pops into her mind. And she was actually probably at about a 7 on the emotional scale, right? So not a 5, not neutral. She was at a 7 because she was really excited. She was really looking forward to this. She made a special dinner and those thoughts dipped her down to a 4. Right? The alert, the sounding of the alarm. But she doesn't run with that thought. She doesn't run with that feeling. She notices it. Like, hey, okay, I hear you. I noticed this pop into my mind, kind of like a cloud, a weather storm popping into my mind. And she doesn't click on it. She doesn't grab onto that cloud. She just goes, hey, there you are. I hear you. And she can feel the emotions or the feelings that are in and around, wrapped around that thought, right? So if she grabs on, like if it's coming to her as a cloud, it's wrapped into all these feelings of abandonment, right? The tension, the heart racing, maybe this clenching in her stomach, her chest tightening. Maybe she was really hungry because again, dinner was ready and all the smells and all these, and then all of a sudden she just feels nauseous. anger, hurt, whatever, but she notices that's an alert, that's an alarm, that's not something she wants to stay in. So she catches herself. So instead of obeying that emotion, instead of jumping on the roller coaster of emotions, she gets curious. That's a choice. That's an option. I can choose to feel abandoned. I can choose to feel upset. I have an option to feel angry. What else is at the buffet? What other options do I have? So when we feel a negative feeling, when we drip from the 7 to the 4, it's about what am I thinking and believing right now? When we become aware, we have conscious awareness of how our thoughts and our feelings and our beliefs create our reality, we can separate ourselves from those thought clouds. Is this thought serving me? Is this thought helpful? Are these feelings what I want to feel? Are these familiar? Right? So some people that I meet that potentially want to get coaching from me, they're in the land of familiarity, right? They're afraid to get coaching. They're afraid of change because they've lived in the land of familiar. The land of familiar might be painful, might be horrible, might be in victimhood. It might be in woe's me, or I'm people pleasing and no one's coming out and saving me, but it's familiar. Some people are terrified to move out of familiarity because that's comfort, right? It's all they know, to something new that's a big question mark. It's a doorway to an unknown. So some people love to stay in the bubble of comfort zone, and that's okay. You're not ready for coaching. You're not ready to change your life. Reach out, back out to me again when you're ready. Because will it be easy to change your life? It is if you think it is, but I will make it simple. But you have to be willing and you have to be open and you have to put in the work. So back to Sarah. In this moment, when she's realizing her thoughts and her feelings and her emotions, and she's looking at what she's thinking and believing in the moment, she can pause and really tap into how she wants to feel. So she can spend that time. She, 15 minutes past when she was expecting John to arrive, she doesn't realize she has another 2 hours and 45 minutes till he gets home. So we'll just assume that she's aware, consciously aware of her thoughts and her feelings, and she just uses this time to reconnect with her body versus spiraling, versus getting upset, whatever. She knows that that is a choice, that is an option. She's done that before. She didn't like what happened on the other end of it, right? Because she knows that if she latches on to negative thoughts and feelings, it really doesn't feel really good. And she knows that she treats herself and others poorly. So she takes some deep breaths. Maybe she takes a bath. Maybe she reads a book. Maybe she lights a candle. Maybe she, all of these things are external things, but what it does is it sets up her environment to facilitate her to go inside. Realizing and recognizing a thought and a feeling is just an alert. It's not a command. It's not a rule. It's not something she has to react to. She has option. She has choice. So she regulates herself. She self-regulates herself. She knows what self-regulation is. She knows that we live our life through our senses, our 5 senses, and she activates one or more of her senses and really gets clear on what she's grateful for, what she's appreciative of, how she wants to feel, right? So it's really learning how to access the right side of her brain, which is creative, innovative. That's where quietness is. That's where the quiet mind is. That's where we feel light and free and in control of how we want to feel. Okay. So she finds a way to relax herself because she knows at any moment John is going to come home. And because she asks herself how she wants to feel and the answers that come up for her from her heart, from her soul, how she wants to feel is she wants to be at peace with whatever happens. She wants to be calm. She wants to be patient. She wants to have a welcoming, warm home for herself and her husband. And maybe if she has kids too. She wants to facilitate unconditional love for John. She wants to be supportive. She wants to be in partnership with him. She wants to be strong. She wants to be brave. I don't know if I said patient. She wants to be courageous. Because when she knows that she operates from that energy, it's magnetized, it compounds, and what energy she stands in, it repels out to him and he will mirror it back. She knows that when she stands in a supportive partnership, strong energy, that he'll be excited to come home. He'll be drawn to come home. He'll be eager to come home. And these words that she comes up with from her bones, from her soul, from her heart, have a unique meaning to her. Right? So brave can mean something very different for her, to John, to you, to me. That word, when you really understand what each and every word that she comes up with, what it means to her, what the values are attached to it, what they stand for her, and she really stands into that, when she gets really grounded into those words, she knows what to do. She knows how to behave. She knows what actions to do. She knows how to be emotionally independent. She knows that when he walks in through that door, that he's probably had a very long day. That something bad probably happened, that she, in that moment, in that state, in that time, she's the one that does have to be brave. She's the one that has to stand there and serve him in a way that's, hi, honey, you're late. I hope everything's okay. You must have had a really hard day. When we open up space, when we open up loving, trusting, compassionate space, he's going to be eager and excited to come home day after day after day, because he's going to feel safe. He's going to feel trusted. He's going to want to spend time with her. Maybe later she could say, you know what, in the future, I'd appreciate it if you would just say I have an emergency, or maybe they create some sort of quick statement that he can text her to reassure her that he's not in a car accident on the side of the road. I don't know, but typically it's not in that moment when he walks in the door. But I think when we have a come from of an energy of unconditional love and supportiveness and partnership, he's going to be more willing to share with her what happened and validate her worries and reassure her that next time he'll send a text, whatever they agree on, right? They'll create an agreement. I have an emergency. I'll call you on my way home. Whatever it is, whatever they agree upon, that's collaborative, that they both agree upon, and that he'll do his best to send that text next time. So when she leads with an energy of curiosity, when she leads with compassion, with empathy, he's going to reflect it back. He's going to be more open and willing to send that text out versus her being cold, distant, throwing walls up, slamming doors, right? He may delay coming home every day because he doesn't want to face that cold, distant, righteous dictator waiting for him at the door or somewhere in the house, poisoning his food. So when we reach for connection versus conflict, we open up space, loving, trusting space for one another. When we offer emotional safety to share, how was your day? Oh my gosh, you must have had a long day. It must be awful. Please tell me what happened. That's a partnership, right? The circumstances outside of the two of you. And as a partnership, you're one. So Sarah also feels empowered, right? She's not hijacked on that emotional roller coaster and taken off into the lowlands of feeling abandoned and less than and not good enough. John is going to feel warmth from her. He's going to lead with grace. He's going to love coming home, right? And maybe even at some point have the strength and wherewithal that if he could talk to his client, and if it's not an emergency that needs to be done in this moment, he could postpone it till the next day, right? My family is important to me. Knowing that this client certainly is a big part of his income, but is not going to be there for his funeral, right? His love, his partner is number one. Possibly, maybe. I don't know all the circumstance. Again, this is fake. This is make believe. So we can assume and create drama, unneeded drama. But when we build trust and safety in our relationship and not build it off of trauma and old beliefs that we're not good enough, that we're abandoned, that we're all those things, we operate from a loving place, not from fear. We operate from love. So how, listening to this example, how would your week, right, your past week shift in changing one thought, right? If you had a point in your week that you reacted, right, in a negative way or even the positive way, how could one thought shift the outcome or the action that you took? Maybe it's in a relationship. It doesn't have to be with someone you love. It could be a partner at work, coworker, could be a relative too, you know, a mom, a dad, a brother, or sister, whatever. How could one thought shift what transpired in that relationship, in that interaction? So a quiet mind is a superpower. A quiet mind is in all of us. We have access to all of a quiet mind. We all have access to it. It does take practice. It is like a muscle. You have to build it. You have to practice it every day. And you have millions of opportunities in a day to practice this. We have a thought and a feeling and an action millions of times a day. So there's no reason to not practice this. Certainly the bigger things are what come to mind. But what I will say is that we have plenty of opportunity to practice this. And what I want to point to is a quiet, still mind is not suppressing your emotions. That is not what I'm pointing to. Like, I love naming my bossy pants and allowing her to be in the same room with me and hearing her out and acknowledging her. That's not suppressing. It's allowing my emotions to inform me, to alert me, but that's it. Because every time we react from a negative emotion, our world gets smaller and smaller and smaller. We build bigger and bigger walls. We get more and more bitter and grumpy. So it's learning to respond from a feeling that you want to feel, which is really kind of like being in alignment with your values, versus reacting to old wiring and conditioning and traumas and events in the past. I don't point to that. So it's pausing and rewriting your story live in the moment. So what I pointed to with the John and Sarah story is two outcomes, the same circumstance, the same event, two very different awarenesses. One's on autopilot, reacting out of the emotional roller coaster, and the other one is consciously being aware and choosing, having an option in how she wants to feel. So just because you feel it, right? Just because you feel an alert, just because you feel an alarm doesn't mean you have to follow it. Okay. So I'd love to hear what you learned. And another question that you can answer in the comments is, where in your life do you let your feelings dictate your actions that you want to change, that you want to improve? Okay. It's a question you can answer in the comments. I'd love to hear what you have to say. And then, you know, a gentle invite, a kind ask is to like this video, comment, obviously, leave a review if that's possible, wherever you're viewing this, share this with someone that could use this message. And then if you're open to it, reach out to me and ask me questions. I love hearing what your thoughts are, what your challenges are, where you're feeling resistance in this understanding. Feel free to reach out to me. I love hearing from people. I'm not pressuring you into anything, so put that thought aside, because a lot of people will think that, oh, that means I have to buy something or I have to spend money. No, notice that's a thought. And then the feeling is, and then you don't take action. Okay, I love getting to know people that follow my work. So if there's a way that I can help or serve you via text or an email or in the comments, I'm so honored and pleased to do so. So don't be shy. All right, and I'll put my phone number to text in the comments. All right, guys. I'll do this again soon. I think this was fun. I'll see you very soon. Bye.